Hey everybody, Tracy Brown here. It's Q&A Friday time. So of course you don't have to only watch these on a Friday. It can be anytime you want to. I'm going to jump right in because we have two questions that I want to get to and we got about 20 minutes. So let's get to it. All right, so a question I got at the end of, I guess this weekend around calorie counting. I just want to jump right in. And the question was, is it ever okay to calorie count when you're in recovery? And it's an interesting question because I would imagine if anybody's watching or listening and you have been calorie counting, you're probably sick of it. I would think, but it also might be a tool that makes you feel more safe, more comfortable, whatever. So ideally, when I work with clients, I try to help people move towards an exchange type of thing. I know not everybody likes exchanges. Sometimes I just call them like components. You know, I'm pretty creative with doing meal planning with people who need some containment around restriction or binging or purging. So it's not like, it's definitely a meal plan that we always work to grow out of. So that's personally, I think, ideal for a couple reasons, is because you move away from the flinch of like every time food's around or a food opportunity is coming, we think that we need to control it somehow, and we learn how to trust something that has less bias toward our interesting. As I'm thinking about the thing is that the diet mentality is always biased towards eating less, biased towards overestimating our food, biased towards believing that certain foods are good or bad, or making your body be a body size it's not supposed to be, or whatever, or not safe. And actually, moving away from calorie counting helps people be able to see how their bodies actually respond to food. And so that's the way I look at it. And I totally get it that if you start doing things, and remember, any kind of meal planning is done as a bridge to intuitive eating. So if you're a person that like, you're trying to do intuitive eating and it's just not happening and you're not really sure if you're eating enough for signals to be accurate, I highly recommend that you put some kind of gentle structure in there to help you. Whatever that is. So again, I'm really flexible about those things with my clients. So sometimes it's like a full-on meal plan. We make lots of sample days. Sometimes it's just like being general about the amount of times they eat per day and how often they do, and even just talking about like number of items per meal, things like that. So it can be really flexible. But the goal of that is to learn how to see how we respond to whatever it is we're eating, and then make our decisions based on that feedback. And then eventually, like, you know, hone in on combining those two things, which would be, you know, intuitive eating with some of that, like, gentle structure, if that makes sense. And then eventually we're going to graduate away from that. That's the goal. So if you're in that position, no matter where you're coming from, like restricting, even, you know, I typically don't do meal planning at all with binge eating, but there's a different way I do it to help people have a little more containment from binging, but it's not exactly meal planning, but there's a way to do it and feel a little bit more like, you know, where there's an edge, basically, and that it can be helpful until we can fully do intuitive eating. So that doesn't mean, though, you don't have the calories in your head. I do know, I mean, it took me a long time to unmemorize those. So I would have to like focus on my meals and components or whatever. I still know who knew how much that food was. But I chose like, okay, I know the number, but what's that got to do with how I'm feeling right now and the feedback I'm getting? So I would have to go back and forth till eventually the more often you use your body sensations and feedback as the guide versus the bias of calories and macros and all that kind of stuff, you start to trust that your body's got this covered. It's got your back. It can do this for you. So now there are situations where I have clients that like it just feels too scary to let go of the calorie counting. So I understand, and if I was working with you, I would help you move away from that in some creative ways. For example, you might have a meal a day that you don't calorie count and you don't use that as the way that you choose your food. Or we would get creative about what your goals are and play around with it. You know, maybe it's that you would eat out more often and you can't count it, and that helps you like kind of get some feedback outside of the numbers, you know. We're trying to manage everything. I do acknowledge that a lot of people who struggle with calorie counting in particular really, not everybody, but a lot of people will have a lot of, I don't like to use labels so much of like anxiety or OCD or whatever, but sometimes it's just like a motor that spins and you kind of have to ignore it, I'll be honest, or to redirect, um, or just make some choices of how you want to respond to that noise or information, because it just kind of gets to be autopilot when you start to feel food in your body or whatever. And or if you feel uncomfortable emotionally or from a sensation standpoint and it clicks that into your brain, you just have to learn like, okay, I hear you, and move back over here. So those are just a couple little things I could give you for the person who asked that question, some things to think about. All right, and so the other question I got, and I want to answer that. And of course, I'm watching for any other things that are popping up here. People have questions about body acceptance, about especially if we change as we age or whatever. And I want to just say that, there's a level of, just like when, we're all kind of trying to figure out how to navigate living in a, really thin, obsessed, idealizing world. We also have that around youth. And I think that there's being able to just like kind of ground yourself, your feet on the ground, and get pragmatic. It's like, bodies are supposed to change. Where did I get this idea that I'm not supposed to like have some wrinkles, or my skin's gonna be as firm as it once was, and where it once was, and where did that come from? And I just know, like, well, open any women's magazine and you learn. For me, I learned, as a teenager, like, oh, they were are advertising wrinkle things to teenagers. So you learn really young, and it depends also on your environment, who you're around, and how much that's a thing for them, and then it becomes, oh, that's the way the world works. And of course, if you want to fit in the way the culture says you should fit in, this is what you're supposed to worry and talk about and all that kind of stuff. Sorry about that. Froze again. It's a learned thing, but we can unlearn it. And the way we unlearn is basically continuously notice when it pops up. When it pops up, what you feel when it pops up, and know that, like, there's something underneath that. There's something underneath that. So that's the way you first start it. I always love the first step is that, like, you don't have to love your body. Our job is to learn how to hate it a little bit less. And maybe we can start with just some appreciation of functioning. Like, so let's say literally that you're moving into a new phase of life, like let's say menopause. I know good and well that people gain weight. You're kind of supposed to for a cardiovascular protective purpose, when you go through menopause. Personally, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm on beginning edge of the not of menopause, but like, what my age is. It's like I can see some differences, and there's a level of like, okay, well, I can see that as like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, and whatever. Or it's like, okay, so how do I help support my body in this time and support myself emotionally around, well, this is different, and I want to feel as vital as I can in this situation, so how do I do that? Does it mean more sleep? That's what it's meant for me at this point in my life, and I wasn't usually like a big, long sleeper, but I feel like I need more sleep now, so I don't judge that because I recognize this is the phase I'm going through with some acceptance. The other part would be, especially if you're going through a different phase in your life, I would say, like, well, can you start looking at women who are also going through the same things? Their body's changing and they're not 20 anymore, or whatever it is that the thing is. Or if you're in your 20s, like, yeah, I don't look like a preteen anymore. And I'm not supposed to have that body anymore. So appreciation for functioning is super, it's a great, Reagan Chastain talks tons about that. I love that when she first started out on this journey, she didn't put the pressure on herself to like love her body size or whatever, or its shape, but she just talked about the fact, like, man, my heart pumps this many beats per minute, and it does this, and I don't have to do the work. And wow, my softer belly's had, this X many amount of cycles in my life and done that, and I didn't control that. Or maybe it's struggling to do that, but it still kind of kept me going anyway. My eyes still see, if they still see well, or if they don't see quite as well, but maybe there's other wisdom that you have, as maybe your eyesight's a little different. So I'm not using as much body stuff, but I think it's really important just to start off with compassion, that we are taught that like we're not supposed to be okay. And I don't know about you all, but I'm not really good at being told how I'm supposed to feel and what I'm supposed to believe in. So if you're like me, a little bit of healthy like, who says I'm supposed to like think that like having a wrinkle is like a terrible thing? And I know that I'm still young. You know, I'll be 40 this year, so I know I'm young, and I don't have that many, but I have more than I did 5 years ago and 10 years ago and certainly 20 years ago, and I can see them, you know, here and here and here, and sometimes I see that like, oh yeah, I'm not 20 anymore, and you have thoughts about that, but it's like, oh well, wait a minute, I'm doing fine, I'm okay, there's, yeah, it's not hurting my life. And you have to go from there. So I do want to offer, if anybody's struggling with body image, below there's just a free gift that I want to talk a little bit about, when you have those weight loss wishes. So you can actually change the language. It's like if yours is like, when you have like desires to lose weight or change your body or whatever, you can use, it's a decoding tool, and you can use it maybe to switch out, like instead of like, I want to lose weight, like, oh, maybe I should get something lifted, or maybe I should, you know, do something different with my face or whatever. Just use it as a tool of like, okay, well, who says, and what would happen, and where that came from, and you can use that tool for that. Just switch out like the struggle, and it'll give you some language to kind of walk yourself through. Another really good book for this issue, my favorite book, the one I do classes on, is When Women Stop Hating Their Bodies. If you've never read that, you definitely should. If y'all are interested in a class like that, I'll be happy to run it again. Maybe I should. It's good timing, maybe, to do that. So if you're interested, you know, maybe put your yeses or private message me below, and we could get a little, 6-week group kind of started. That'd be fun. I ran it this time last year. I haven't really advertised for it again, but if you're interested, let me know. We basically walk through some journal prompts and discuss things, and just gets really supportive. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. It was super, powerful last time I did it. So I'm happy to do it because it's always pretty great. And it's based on journal. I don't have to create the content, so I don't definitely do as much work, so I don't charge as much as I would for another group when I did it all from scratch. So that should be fun. So I'll come up with something for that too. But anyway, thank you all for coming live. Thank you all who come later, and maybe if you wanted to ask a question but you didn't want to do it live, just please private message me or email me, and I'm happy to answer that question either to you if you don't want it online or live, but just answer it. Fridays are my answering questions days, so please, I'll do that anytime, but I want to, put it live for as much of us to benefit from as I can. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Please, I want to leave this last little bit. Do something nice for yourself today. Something that makes you feel silly or smile or whatever. Get together with some friends that you haven't seen in a while. Call somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Do something sensory for yourself that just feels good, and there's no reason, quote unquote, like it's not a special, you go to the spa, that'd be great, but I'm just gonna buy a new oil that I really like and put it in my diffuser just because I like it, or use your nicer china that you never use, or go find some water and put your feet in, whatever. Play. I know it's kind of, it's the August still. There's no, if it was colder, I'd say find some snow and play around the snow, whatever. Find some water, play in the water. Find some dirt, play in the dirt. I'm doing that this weekend. I might then show you pictures. I'm gonna restart a garden again, so I will actually keep you updated that, because it's gonna be my most aggressive attempt. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I'll talk to y'all soon. Take care. Bye.